Whew. Are you recording?
We're recording.
Oh, okay.
We're feeling okay after the first viewing of that film?
Yeah. I'm feeling good.
All right.
I'm ready to discuss Sharknado. Here we go.
Hannah?
Yeah?
We're talking about Grave of the Fireflies.
Oh, that movie. Okay. Yeah, that, don't know if I'm ready for that, but let's do it anyway, shall we?
Editor Donald, play the intro. Just play the intro. Anime April. That theme does get stuck in your head.
Yeah.
I swear.
Ding, ding, ding.
Well,
Ding.
it's time to dive in what many people consider one of Studio Ghibli's best works.
Yep.
So let us begin. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, all your wonderful people listening to us? Welcome back to the General Geekery podcast.
Yeah.
This is, of course, the podcast where we love to geek out about all that we love to geek out about with no remorse.
No regrets.
And with all of the enthusiasm in the world.
Indeed.
As always, we are your hosts. I am your resident coffee ninja by day, actor, gamer, streamer by night. I am Donald Kaczynski. Joining me, as always, she is our dice slinger extraordinaire, artiste magnificent, and our resident video game inept. She is the one and only Hannah Kubiak.
Hello.
And welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen, to Anime April 2022. For those of you that don't know and haven't seen our previous Anime April escapades, every year we dedicate the month of April to the art form of anime exclusively to anime.
The art form of anime, exclusively anime.
Mm-hmm. And before we get started with today's episode, I'm going to quickly just get these out of the way, just so we can dive right on in. If you guys like what we do and want to help support us, please consider donating to our Patreon page or our Ko-fi as well. The links for both of those will be in the description below. You'll get access to some exclusive content, including episodes early, once we get that all settled. And I also got a couple of things planned for Anime April this month, including a discussion about some of my favorite anime series of all time.
Ooh.
So I'm currently writing that up, and I'm planning to have that up soon near the end of the month.
Excellent.
So get ready for that. So without further ado, it is time to talk about Grave of the Fireflies.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I guess just some background information about this movie first?
Mm-hmm, yeah. So, do you have some background information to share, or?
No.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure that
I have a lot of spiritual, mental, and emotional reactions to it, but I have no idea when this movie was made or anything.
Gotcha.
So.
Don't worry, I got that covered. So, Grave of the Fireflies is a animated war tragedy film that was originally released in 1988 and was animated by Studio Ghibli. Studio Ghibli, of course, being notable for many great animated works such as Spirited Away, Castle in the Sky, Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, among others. A lot of those films that were directed by Hayao Miyazaki are filled with wonder and enchantment and excitement. This one, on the other hand, was not directed by Miyazaki, and this one is a lot grimmer than many of the works.
Yeah, I was surprised sometimes by the sort of the gruesome images that were in here.
Yeah.
Charred bodies, like.
Well, we will get to that.
Oh, pretty nasty.
And the film itself was inspired by a 1967 short story of the same name. Written by Akiyuki Nosaka, which is classified as a semi-autobiography based on his a similar experience that he encountered through his life. He actually originally wrote the original short story as an apology to his younger stepsister, who died similarly to a certain person in here. He wrote it as his stepsister's name was Keiko.
Oh, okay.
So he wrote it as a personal apology.
Oh.
So, yeah, as if this film story wasn't depressing enough, the backstory on the original creation of it is it's something else too. So, Grave of the Fireflies takes place around the end of the Second World War.
Yeah, like 1944-ish. Yeah.
44, 45, roughly. It follows our main protagonists, an older brother and a younger sister. Seita and Setsuko. They were living in Kobe, but had to leave after the firebombing of it, and that basically left them homeless and killed their mother. And that scene was rough.
That was rough.
So
that kid, he was so stoic most of the time. Like,
yeah,
really just sort of, it seemed like his mind was on his sister all the time about how to keep her safe and happy and innocent and everything. So like he for a while didn't even tell her that their mom had died. Because he just didn't want her to know just yet.
Yeah, I think part of that.
And he basically, he brought their mother's ashes home with him, but like hid them in the garden.
That's right, I remember that.
Yeah. Which I guess you can kind of say about that, perhaps, that like keeping a secret like that probably wasn't the best, but also just how do you tell a kid that when you're a kid yourself, basically?
Yeah.
You know, and
because
so that was rough.
Because he's just a teenager. He's still like growing up and trying to figure everything out.
Yeah, how old was he? Like 15, 16-ish?
Somewhere around that range.
Old enough that everyone kept on getting on his case about how he wasn't a soldier.
Yeah, he wasn't doing anything.
For the war effort or whatever.
Yeah, because
I'll talk more about that in a bit.
Yeah. So yeah, the opening after the opening cutscene where we basically see the ending of the story.
Yeah.
Which kind of put us off originally. Like I said,
I thought we had messed something up and that we were like watching the very last scene for some reason.
I thought so too. So some context on it. This was we both watched Grave of the Fireflies together in order to understand the story. This was my second time watching it, and Hannah, this was your first time.
Yep.
Also, huge shout out to my friend Lawrence. Thank you for letting us borrow your copy. We watched the Grave of the Fireflies Central Park media dub from the 1990s. So, yeah, I completely forgot how this movie started and how this movie went, because it had been years since I've seen it. I think the last time I saw it in full was, I want to say 2007, 2008-ish.
Oh, wow.
I was really young when I saw this, and I was more in teenage years, but I was scarred.
Yeah.
It scarred me.
I wasn't a terrible older sibling, but it makes me kind of wish that I had been a better older sibling.
Yeah, there are definite times that you see in there that, yeah, I have that reflection too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where I'm like, man, like, why was I such a selfish little kid? Why didn't I just let my little sister have whatever,
Oh, I feel that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, some bits that stood out to me. I think the moment where we kind of figured out what kind of kid this Saita is, it was after the air raid that destroyed their town. Mm-hmm. And they're just kind of like sitting by this playground, and their mom is gone, and I think he just went to see their mom in the hospital. That she had been really, really badly burned.
Yeah, they were. It was after they arrived at the school, and they showed the body. She was still alive at that point, but
pretty badly burned. Yeah,
the imagery. The only other Studio Ghibli film that has like this kind of like imagery that it shows like that kind of ghastliness on a human body is Princess Mononoke, which was released like a decade after Grave of the Fireflies.
That's a good one. That one's my mom's favorite.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Maybe it's just because like I said in the previous episode when we were talking about My Hero Academia, I'm very close with my mom. That triggered something in me where I needed to look away. I'm like, I can't look at this.
See, I had a different reaction. I was wondering I was thinking to myself, what is he going to tell Setsuko, and how is he going to deal with this and take care of her at the same time, basically. That was my thought.
Right.
And so he comes back, and Setsuko is getting upset about something, and like rightly so, because like her world basically just burned down. She's not allowed to see her mom yet because her mom is sick, and it would horrify the little girl if she saw her, basically.
Right.
And there's this moment where Setsuko is just standing there, and she's crying, and Saita is sitting on the edge of the playground or something.
And then you see the bars.
Yeah, and then he gets up all of a sudden, and he's like, "Here, watch me. I'm good at this." And he goes up to the bars and starts doing like somersaults on the bars and flipping around and stuff, and just trying to cheer her up, basically. And so that was kind of the sort of moment in the story where we saw his reaction to what was going on, because he kind of mostly just sort of experienced stuff up until then.
Yeah.
And so this was the moment when like everything that's happened has happened, you know, and now it's just time to react.
Right.
Know? And the way that he reacts is to try and make his sister smile.
Because it's all he can really do.
Yeah, yeah. And I knew this was going to be this one was going to be a doozy. As a person who, I know we just talked about superpowers, and now I said that I would want to know how to teleport. But one that kind of fluctuates in and out of there is I wish that I was able to see people's pain and heal them with a touch.
I do remember we had that discussion.
That's the other superpower that I would love to have, and that I think kind of fits with my personality as well. Like,
especially in that moment where you just see like just Setsuko crying and Seita's like, gotta keep it down, gotta keep her happy, and it's just like,
just be like, I wish that I could just, you know, I wish that I could take away people's pain, I guess. And that's kind of what this story was about, was just sort of this young man who's just trying to take care of what's left of his family and trying to like preserve his sister's, not only her life, but her joy and her innocence and everything. Yeah. And something that really bothered me about a lot of the other people in this story was like his aunt that they go to stay with,
which was on his father's side.
Okay, yeah.
That's the thing about
That's why
father.
she was so weird when he said that his mom had died. She was like, "Well, time for dinner," and I'm like, "What the fuck, lady?" Like, yeah. Okay, so it's on his father's side.
Well, it was also like, wartime brings out like a weird side to a lot of people.
Yeah. Like
mentalities change, and it's just how it is. Plus, as we find out, Seita and Setsuko's dad is in the Japanese Navy, so he's out fighting the war.
Yeah.
And we see like Setsuko and Seita had like a bit of like a richer upbringing than the aunt and her family that they stay with. Like they have a little bit more of like a modest lifestyle. because later on he's like, well, your mother's not going to be needing all these nice clothes anymore. We can get a real good price for these.
Yeah, and just sort of the aunt kind of saying, as they're eating the rice that they bought with the money from selling their mother's kimonos, the aunt is saying you're not doing anything. You're just sitting around taking up space and eating food, and she gave them basically just the broth and the stew and none of the substance and stuff like that. And the other people in the family, she's like, yes, you're going off and you're doing good things for Japan, but these two children are just layabouts, And I took issue with that because I feel like we often sort of, so there's I don't think we live in a dualistic world particularly. We don't have just black and white. But a lot of the time, people tend to, in order to maybe simplify things for themselves, think in those terms. And so there's always something and its opposite. And for some reason, we like to think of one thing as bad and the other thing as good. It's why can't they both be good in different ways? So we think of going out, going to work, going to war, fighting, action, tough, military, brute strength action. We think of that as being, good and courageous and virtuous. But then on the opposite side of that, we have the sort of people who live more of a hidden life. They are nurturers. They are caretakers. They do the more menial tasks, and it's very thankless. And some people think of that as being a waste of time. They say, oh, you're just gonna waste your life being a mom, being a stay-at-home mom, for example. People will say that and say it's just because it's not flashy doesn't mean it's not good, Right. And I think that's Saito wanted to be a soldier. He wanted to be like his dad.
Yeah.
Because his dad was fighting in the war, his dad couldn't be there for them to do the nurturing, and so Saito had to step up and do that part for his sister. And taking care of your family is not cowardice. The aunt and a bunch of other people were saying, you're old enough to be fighting in the war. Why are you just sitting around here being useless, But he's not being useless. He's taking care of his sister. And I think that people other people in this story overlooked it and kind of saw it as even being kind of shameful, I suppose. And I don't think it's cowardice at all. I think it takes a lot of humility and courage to do something that is unappreciated and misunderstood by everyone around you because it needs to be done. They seem to think of Saito as this useless coward because he isn't fighting in the war, but there's more to do than fight during the war. If you fight and then everything you fought for is gone, what was the point of fighting in the first place?
Right.
There's people who fight, and there's people who preserve what we're fighting for, and he was one of these people. And this movie really showed sort of how important it is to just to take care of people, as well as just to take care of your family, take care of the vulnerable. And so, and Saito experienced a lot of shame because of what he had to, how people reacted to him, and what he had to do to keep him and his sister alive. He he had to steal food from farmers. He basically got like beaten up by a farmer and like dragged to the police because he stole some food for his sister who was sick.
And the police officer is like, I'm not going to charge you. I understand.
He's just like, I don't. Yeah, the police officer just like, I honestly don't care that this kid stole a leek from your farm. Like, yeah, and what else? And it's like, yeah, robbing houses during air raids. Like,
I mean, it
makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, they got themselves in a situation where they had to do that because they had enough of being badmouthed by their aunt. They're like, you know what? Let's go off on our own.
Yeah, and I think that I understand that sometimes people just can't help other people. Like, there was that one farmer who really tried to help him, but at a certain point he was like, I'm sorry, I can't. I don't really have that much to give you, kid. There are some people who really try, and then there are some people who just don't try at all. And they just say, well, you're starving, and it's your own fault. So, sucks to be you, I guess. You know, as opposed to, you know, how about instead of making judgments, you just do what you can to help somebody, you know?
Do you actually want to hear some of the words that the director for this film actually mentioned in relation to that?
I'd love to.
So, the director of this film, the late Isao Takahata, one of the founders of Studio Ghibli alongside Hayao Miyazaki, who also directed other works such as Tom Poko and Pom Poko and The Tale of Princess Kaguya, denied that this was an anti-war film. He said, it is not at all an anti-war anime and contains absolutely no such message. Instead, Takahata had intended to convey an image of the brother and sister living a failed life due to isolation from society and evoke sympathy, particularly in people in their teens and 20s. So literally almost everything that you have said was the kind of reaction that Takahata was looking for that kind of like reaction. Because in many ways, and I can't speak fully on behalf of like the country of Japan as like a country. Societal judgment is a huge thing in more so over there than it is here in America for us.
Yeah.
And that's displayed a lot in a lot of the media that especially in anime, societal indifference to like those on the bottom, like the outcasts, the dispossessed, just those that the unwanteds.
Yeah, you know, when I was watching this movie, I wasn't mad that there was a war going on. I was like, yeah, there's a war happening. War happens. Then also, but I was mad at just the people in the town for being such assholes, you know? That was what really bothered me. That was like the true antagonists in this story weren't the foreigners who they were fighting in the war.
The Americans.
The Americans, the Allies, because Japan was one of the Axis.
Right.
Like this story wasn't even focused on that. This was like a way smaller situation than just the global situation of the war.
It was directed and it was portrayed more as a personal story.
Yeah.
We're following these two young souls just trying to make it through, trying to survive this hellish time in human history that has affected them very personally.
Yeah.
And in the end, they both pay the price.
Yeah.
As we said, halfway through the movie, they're sick of their aunt's abuse, and they go out, they try to strike it out on their own. They find an abandoned bomb shelter that they make into their surrogate home.
Yeah.
And in order to light it up inside for Setsuko not to be scared, like underneath the bug tent that they used to keep the mosquitoes out, they let in these fireflies, and one of the most beautiful shots in the film.
Yeah.
But the next day or so, the Fireflies die, so Setsuko digs a grave for them, and she reveals that she knew that their mom was dead the entire time. Mm-hmm. And it was in that moment that Seda finally broke.
Yeah.
And it's in that moment, it's like, these two are all each other has.
Yeah. When,
because Setsuko relies on Seita for sustenance and just protection, and Seita needs Setsuko for that emotional attachment, just that thing that to keep him going.
Yeah. Exactly. Because, once she's gone, he doesn't keep going for very long.
Which...
I feel like... I'm not sure. I feel like for a lot of it, he was basically, helping her was what kept him from despair. It was like his reason to keep on going, basically.
I mean, when the farmer basically took it to the police, like you said, like Setsuko was around there too. Like Seita kept shouting out, "You don't understand. She don't understand. She's feeling sick. She needs food. She needs me. She needs me."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, what else can you say to that?
I don't know.
I mean, we've all, like you said, you and me, we're both older siblings.
Yeah.
And but in any kind of situation like that, like we've probably had that in our minds as like our younger sibling needs us.
Yeah. And a lot of the time, I'm sure that you're this way as well. But there are things that you put up with being done to yourself that you just would not tolerate if it happened to your little sibling. Like,
yep.
I have a real life example if we'd like.
If you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So my parents are divorced, and my siblings and I would go and visit my dad on summers, and there was this sort of kind of the way that he parented us, or tried to. It was not like really parenting, but more like having influence in our lives, was because he had this money that our grandparents, his parents, had like given him to give to us for college. Basically, they had been sort of like saving it up since we were born. Basically.
Okay.
And they gave it to my dad to give to us when we were going to college.
Right.
So I was kind of like, okay, hey, Dad, I'm going to be going to college, and then I'm gonna need that money. Could I have it? And he was like, well, 4 years ago when you were starting high school, you decided not to go to the school that I thought you should go to. So no, you can't have the money. You brought this upon yourself. And I'm like, well, okay, fuck you. I don't need your money anyway. And I just went on,
Yep.
But then the same thing happened to my sister 4 years later when she was going to college. He was like, he did basically the same thing. He was like, yep, you defied me. You can't have this money. And literally, I hadn't spoken to him in like years. But I was like, I'm going to get on a plane and I'm going to go yell at him. And my sister's like, that's stupid. Don't do that. And I was like, and she was like, when he did this to you, you just said, yeah, you know what? Screw it. I don't need your money. And it wasn't an issue. But now it's an issue for you? And I'm like, well, yeah, because when I was a kid, I was like, basically I was a bad kid. And I disobeyed him all the time, and I made a lot of trouble for him. But you never did. You were a good kid, and you don't deserve this. Basically it was my, yeah. And so that was the kind of the thought I had. And like recently, when my sister was getting married, she and her fiance were going to go and have dinner with my dad and stuff, and my sister was kind of nervous about it. She called me and she was crying and she was like, I don't want to go to dinner with Dad. And I was like, would it help if I drove down there and I was there too? Because then maybe they wouldn't get on your case as much because I'd be there.
Right.
And she was like, you know what? No, like I don't want to do that, because if you're coming just so that they can kick you instead of me, then that's dumb. Don't do that. And I was like, oh yeah, it's a stupid idea, you know. I was like, part of me just wants them to be mad at me, just so they won't be mad at you. Part of me just is like, yeah, bring it, come on, I deserve it.
Yeah, I have that similar relation with my younger brother. I was recently around the time we were recording this, this past weekend I was hanging out with him. He was actually over at my place, and we were just sitting, hanging out, just reminiscing about stuff. And oh man, just like I said, I'm very close to my little brother, and I would honestly take a bullet for him. Hopefully it doesn't come to that.
Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but
like,
if it does, yeah, probably.
Yeah. There's been a lot of stuff, like, growing up that we both had to deal with, from both outside the family and internally inside the family. And anytime, like, he has, like I said, I don't care what happens to me. Like, you know how I am. I'm very motherly as a person. Like,
you're definitely the mom in the group wherever we are.
Yeah, like, it does not matter to me what happens to me. Like, I could be cut up, beat up, whatever, as long as I make sure that those that I care about with me are okay.
Yep.
I will lay on the sword.
Yeah.
So
honestly, yeah. It's like, yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, somebody's bugging me and saying all sorts of bad things about me. I'm like, you know what? It's not worth the time. But if someone says something about my sister, I'm like, you what?
Yeah.
Get over here and say that to my face, you limp noodle.
Yep. It's like, whenever it happens to people we care about, that fight or flight situation instantly comes out. And honestly, I think that's why we related to Seda so much, because it's like, if we like, if it was us in that situation, we would have done the exact same thing.
And honestly, a lot of it is wishful thinking. Like, you and I probably aren't as awesome as Seda was, but
probably not. But you know, when the chips are down and the back's up against the wall, like, who knows? Maybe we would have.
Yeah.
I would like to think so.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not just out of, like, indifference for what happens to us. Hopefully it's because we actually love our siblings.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I mean, it comes down to...
It's like, wait a minute.
Ultimately, it came down to...
Are you fighting for me, or do you just not give a damn?
Well...
Oh, this is getting rather personal.
No, it's okay. Like I said, like, this film brings out a lot of emotions in a lot of people, so...
Yeah.
So it all ends like Seda's back up against the wall. He's like, he takes out the last amount of money that the family had in the bank account, and he learns that Japan lost the war and that his dad is most likely dead.
Yep.
And so all he has left is Setsuko. And around the time he gets back with all this food that he bought, and he's preparing dinner for her as she's starving, she doesn't wake up.
Yeah.
Oh, that scene kills me every time.
Ugh. Oh, yeah, really bothers me.
And then,
honestly, yeah. It would be sort of like a... Yeah, at that point, I was like, you know what? Like, it isn't fair, you know? It's kind of like that scene in The Two Towers when Theoden finds out that his son has been killed.
No parent should
ever
have to bury their child.
No parent should have to bury their child. And it, to a lesser extent, I feel like it's kind of similar with siblings. Like, I don't want to outlive my little sister.
Right.
Honestly, like, I don't.
It's to quote Peter Capaldi from Doctor Who. It's not the day they die. It's at least there's something to do that day when it happens. It's all the days that they're not there.
Yeah.
And we see the price for that at the beginning of the film, because after Setsuko dies and Seda cremates her, and he keeps her ashes in the little box that they were using to make that tasty water.
Yeah, the fruit drop can.
The fruit drop can. Seda ends up homeless and just aimless and dies in a train station of starvation.
Yep.
And
like, at the beginning of the movie, someone literally put food down right next to him. Like, he was sitting there and somebody, like a couple of rice balls or something. I don't know if he touched them.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. People either did that, or they were walking around and like, ew.
Ew. Yeah. Or, yeah, they're like, they check him and they're like, poke him with a stick, and they're like, here's another one. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Senseless disregard for human life.
Well, I mean, like, around that time, like, it was... I guess it was kind of a common occurrence that, like, stuff like that happened. I mean, end of wartime.
Yeah.
They basically disposed his body. Like, the can that he kept Setsuko's ashes in, they find and they basically just toss out.
Yeah, they don't know what's in it. They were like, what's in it? And they, I think they, poured out the ashes in the train station. They were like, what's in here?
Yep.
Oh,
yeah,
weird.
That seems
Toss the can away. It's like, oh my gosh, no!
And when you go back and, realize that, it's like,
oh... But, I mean, they didn't know.
No, they didn't know.
And after everything that happens, they reunite as these ghost-like beings and just see the flashbacks of what led up to them, and the film ends with them as ghosts just overlooking modern day Japan or 1980s Japan at the time.
Yeah.
And that's how the film ends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's nothing fantastical about it for the most part. No hero coming to save the day. That's what it is.
Yeah, basically.
And a lot of people consider it one of the greatest works in Japanese animation of all time.
Says a lot about Japan, I guess.
Well, many film critics,
a lot of Americans would take issue with that. They'd be like, oh my gosh, that was so depressing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I found it very interesting and, a real masterpiece.
Well, a lot of people, can, think of it as, an anti-war film of, how, a government fails to protect its people, in stuff like that. Some people take it as, some people have cited fears, when this film was released, as, government parties, it's for this reason why we can't let all this happen to our people, why we should go to war, stuff like that.
Right.
There's been discussions like that over this film, and honestly, almost every anti-war film.
There are different solutions than just blaming some big entity about your problems and saying it's because of this group, it's because of these people. It's no, maybe it's about you. Maybe it's about all of us individually. Maybe if you try a little bit harder, if you're a little bit of a better person, if you're a little bit less selfish, that's really all that you can do, and it does and even that little does a whole lot more than just complaining about whose fault it is. Mm-hmm. It's basically, it's kind of okay, if there's a problem, a lot of the time, just well, the problem has happened. I don't care whose fault it is. Fix it, basically. Yeah. We waste time blaming when we should just be trying to be better and fixing our mistakes when we make them.
So overall, you're any moments in the movie that really stood out for you that more so than other moments? I know there's a lot of stuff that when you and me were originally watching through, we were trying to crack small jokes to each other just to try to lighten the mood.
Yes, I was. I don't remember what some of them were, but
Oh, the beach.
Oh, the beach?
Yeah, when they were on the beach and Setsuko's what's that man doing? Is he sleeping? And then you realize it's more than likely
a dead person.
Yeah, more than likely it's a corpse.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And my reaction, I'm oh no, I forgot about that.
No, didn't I? I'll bet I said something about how he was probably high.
Yeah, you did. You were trying to crack a joke.
Yeah, I was whoa, that beach weed. It's dank, ain't it?
Yeah.
Hey kids, you want some dank weed?
Bruh.
Oh man.
Oh man. I wanted look what I got. Gives it the can of fruit traps.
Yep.
Weed?
So many weed jokes.
Oh,
so
gosh.
many weed jokes were made during that.
Oh man,
chat.
I don't even know why. It's just it's too easy. It's almost like our generation's fart joke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, laughter is the best medicine when it comes to just depression and sadness. So,
yep.
Honestly, having the first time I watched through this film, I saw this film alone as a young adult, and that's what broke me. I didn't have anybody to bounce off of or anything like that.
Yeah.
I watched it alone by myself.
Well, yeah, usually when you're alone, you're by yourself.
Yeah, I watched it by myself alone late at night because I was catching an airing of it on cable, of all things.
Oh man.
And
ancient days, am I right?
Yeah. But and watching that, like, I was like, other people were in the house and were sleeping. I was I was at my old house. My room was in the attic and I was by myself, but I was like, even though I could make so much noise that nobody could hear me, like, I was trying to be as quiet as I could, because I'm like, I don't want to wake up everyone with my crying.
I mean, there are ghosts up there.
Oh, there were ghosts up there, absolutely.
Yep.
You've been there, you know about that cursed place.
Yep. Oh, that accursed place.
But
that whole attic was one big cold spot.
Yeah, I apologize. I apologize for that. Hey, we have heating now.
Oh yeah.
We have heating now.
In fact, it is too warm in this new location most of the time.
Oh my. Yeah. Wait for summer to roll around and I get the air conditioning in, so we'll be okay.
Oh yeah.
So overall, in my personal opinion, I recommend people check this film out at least once.
Would recommend, yes.
It's not a film that is easily rewatchable for obvious reasons.
I mean, I could rewatch it, but I'm a little bit messed up, so, you know.
I mean, understandable. So, in that opinion, like, would we put this film up there with like true art? I know this is going to be a little bit of a weird question.
I don't know. I mean, I think so. It didn't leave me with... Like, honestly, I had all the thoughts I was going to have about it, like, while I was watching it. It wasn't one of those movies that when I was, like, driving home or when I was, like, at work the next day, like that. I wasn't, like, thinking about it.
Right.
Which is weird because, like, I identified with it so much, but maybe that's why I wasn't thinking about it. I don't know. But, like, yeah, I'm not sure.
I always view this film, among some other ones, as like, this is like one of those films that you need to introduce to people at like certain points in their life to really get them to like appreciate the message and like the story and everything.
Yep.
I think
when you're 4, I think is a good time.
Maybe not this particular one. I would say around like middle school, high school for this film in particular.
Yeah.
Because you can still capture that imagination of animation because they're still young minds. They can still capture that spark of the imagination of animation, but at the same time, that's the point in their lives that they're seeing the non-black and white of the world, like all the nuances, all the back corner situations.
Yeah.
So I think, like, I would...
Just because we're on the same side in the war doesn't mean we're friends.
Like, I would honestly show that... If I had a class, if I were a teacher of a class, like, for a film studies, I would absolutely have people talk about this film. Yep. This film turns 44 this month.
Whoa! That's insane.
April 16th of 1988 was when this film was first released. I double-checked on that.
That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah. So, definitely recommend giving this a watch.
Would recommend.
Anything?
I mean, I said my one thing that I wanted to say, basically.
I think we're good on that.
I think we're good, yeah.
Once again, huge shout out to my friend Lawrence for letting us borrow his copy of Grave of the Fireflies so we could watch it. Thank you so much again, man. I appreciate it. And I think that is going to be it for this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to us talk about Grave of the Fireflies. This got into a very more in-depth personal discussion than I think either of us were personally expecting.
Yeah. I thought about it for a second. I was like, maybe I shouldn't tell that story. Whatever.
You know, in the moment, it's art. We say what we want to say.
Oh, that was decades ago. I'm not still mad about it.
But, thank you guys for listening to us. We greatly appreciate it. If you want to listen to more from us, you can check us out wherever podcasts are found. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, and if you want to listen to the entire playlist in order,
We have everything available on YouTube. The playlist is in the description of this episode, along with the links to our previously mentioned Ko-fi and Patreon pages. If you guys want to follow us on social media, you can check us out on Twitter and Facebook at Gen Geek Podcast and on Instagram at General Geekery. If you guys want to check out what I'm doing, you can check me out on social media at RyuzakiMK7. You can also check me out on Twitch at RyuzakiMK7 as well. You can check Hannah out on social media on Instagram at Python Legume. And I do believe you have a DeviantArt page to share?
DeviantArt, yeah. You can find me on DeviantArt at, just type in Dolman Bright.
I'll have the link for that in this episode as well.
Why don't I have any sort of link or name that people can easily spell? I don't know.
No, hey, I have one in my name too, so you know what?
What does the MK stand for? I've always wanted to ask that. Wait! Is your middle name Michael?
No, I think originally it just meant Mark.
Oh.
Like Mach 7, like a model number.
Gotcha. Okay.
I was young. It was weird, but so yeah, if you guys want to check out some art from Hannah and possibly commission some stuff for her, go check out her DeviantArt page. She does some really great work. I commission her all the time. Please support this wonderful, wonderful human being. And if you guys want to check both me and Hannah out rolling dice and slaying some monsters and stuff, we are a part of Loaded Dice Adventures. Hannah's part of the Monday group, Avenaria Awakenings, and we are both part of the Wednesday group, Avenaria Corsairs. Check them out on Twitch at Loaded Dice Adventures. And without further ado, guys, thank you so much. This has been episode 113 of General Geekery about Grave of the Fireflies for Anime April 2022. Until next time, guys, for Hannah, I'm Donald. Until next we see you, always remember to keep your geek on.
Always.
Clink, clink. Later, guys.
Bye.